Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to 20 Years in 20 Minutes.
20 minutes.
I want to welcome you all to my channel. This is my first live I've done in a long time, but I have a special guest with me, my husband, Derek Blue.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome.
So tonight we're just going to come, we have celebrated 20 years of marriage this past Wednesday. And so we wanted to celebrate because that is a huge milestone to be together 2 decades. And we wanted to come tonight and share our story, our love story. And we didn't practice anything. We don't have notes. So we're winging this because we just wanted to share and,
Yeah, and that's it. Just kind of talking. And thank y'all for joining. So we're live from our Activate Church page, as well as from your page, I think my page, and then also on YouTube. So do us a quick favor. Go ahead and share this. We want y'all to chill with us tonight. Thank you all for chiming in. But go ahead and share this. Tag somebody that is married, that is preparing for marriage.
Yeah.
And I think they want to be married. We're going to be just sharing out a little bit. What are we going to be talking about tonight?
Oh my goodness. We're going to just share our story. Let's just see who's on with us tonight real quick. We see Trina Mathis. Hello, Trina. I see my sister-in-law, Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think my mother-in-law is on. Mama, hello. Mama Roberts. And many more of you might be on, but we thank y'all tonight. So let's just get started at the beginning. And we're going to kind of breeze through that a little bit good evening, Miss Helen. Good evening. We'll kind of breeze through our love story. We're trying to keep it under 20 minutes, but this whole live will probably be about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, because we want to get any questions that you guys might have. We want to be able to answer those, and you're welcome to put them down in the comment section below. So let's get started.
Wow, 20 years.
20 years.
20 years ago, the Lord blessed you. The Lord really, really blessed you.
He really did.
In the person of the Derek Blue.
As the Melanie Blue.
So
he got blessed.
So then let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about this. I was just actually looking at, I don't know if y'all can see this, but we're at my wife's desk.
Yeah.
And I was taking a look at this. I don't know if y'all can see this or not. We got a glare. How can you fix that? Y'all see that?
This is us. 23. I was 23. No, I was 22 and Derek was 23. We were little jits compared to us now. And that's us now. This is how it started and how it's going. That's a picture of us at the Power Couples Ball from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's what we progressed to.
That's how we look now.
Look, we both gained weight
after having
children. So anyway, let's get started. So tell you a little bit about me, and I'm not going to go long, but I really want to give you guys this background story because it really makes sense moving forward. So I was born and raised in Connecticut, which is up north, New England area, suburbs, and I did a lot of sports, and I did cheerleading. Basically, that was a sport that I did. It was cheerleading for basketball and football season, all that type of stuff. And we moved down here to Jacksonville, Florida, when I was 15 years old. And the very first family that we met was my cousin Nikki's best friend's family. And we got to know them, and we started going to church. I got saved. I moved down here when I was 15, got saved at 19. And that church affiliation that we were in, both of us had been in it for 20 something years, but we met that year I turned 19. Every December we go to Atlanta for our church convention. And we met in Atlanta. I was coming down the escalator with my sister and her husband. They already knew him and his brothers. I didn't know them because they were singers. they still sing God's Example. We're gonna shout y'all out in a minute, but
That's right.
and I was just all about God. I was not thinking about any guys getting in a relationship. I really wanted to focus on God. And we were going down the escalator to go into church, and I just see these 4 tall boys standing up together, all together. And y'all remember Cross Colors? Those bright colored jeans, like the red, orange color jeans, and the bright color striped tops. All of them were wearing that.
Wait a minute.
They all were wearing that.
It was in style though.
They all that even when it was in style, it wasn't cute.
In the 90s, Cross Colors was the
and
style.
I was a fashionista even back then. I was like, I need to give them some tips. But y'all dressed in that baby blue satin suits looking like pajamas.
How you gonna get me all out here on Facebook and start insulting me and my brothers in my fashion story?
Your fashion story. His fashion game has come up over the years. Let me tell you.
Let's get the
so I just kept going. I saw them. Couldn't tell you which one was there.
Tag my brothers, Sarah.
No, don't do it, Sarah.
We got to clear this up tonight.
And it wasn't about the right. But I just went on to church. I was focused on God. I was focused in church. So I was like, okay, forget what they're doing. Hey, what's up? Got to go into church. And the following January, I got saved. So that's where I was in my life, to where that January of 2000, right? We met in December of 1999.
Mm-hmm.
I got saved January 23rd, 2000. And so that was such a long time ago. But 22 years ago. So I've been saved for 22 years. So you could tell where you were from that point.
Meanwhile, I was on the backside of the mountain in a
country town,
in a city called Crescent City, and at Walker Chapel Church of God by Faith.
Mm-hmm.
Going around, we were singing. We had just started our group probably a couple years earlier than that, and me too. I was focused on the Lord. God had saved me, and we just immediately just started traveling. My dad would have us out there on the streets doing tent revivals. We would go to the nursing homes, we would go into the prisons, and I was preaching. And truth of the matter is, we were just sold out to the Lord. And but I think at a certain point in my life, after coming out of the world, I was like, man, it's time, I think I was ready for a commitment. I was saved. I had been saved for a few years at that time, but I was just ready, like, for a wife. I think I was ready. I was tired of the foolishness, and I was ready for a wife, So in Atlanta, while my brothers and I, we were singing, and we were so stylishly doing so in Atlanta, as we were coming down the elevators, I actually remember seeing you. We said hello to your sister and brother-in-law, who were, of course, our friends. We used to visit the church in Callahan there, and said hello. And I did notice you, but I was also looking to the Lord at the same time. So I noticed you, and I was like, okay. And we kind of kept it moving, and then from there.
No, I walked away from you.
No, we walked away from each. No, actually, were we coming down the escalators?
No, I was coming down the escalator. Y'all were already standing there, and they Scooter stopped to talk to y'all, and I just said hi and kept going. I walked and went to church. So
that happened, and then after that, she went, back to Jacksonville her way. I went back to Crescent City, my way. And then what happened next?
So at that particular time, I had my mother-in-law had a best friend that went to our church, Sister Willette, and but he knew me too, because he came. He had been to our church too. We just talked.
One of the members. Yeah, one of the members who was a part of her church in Jacksonville at one point moved to Crescent City. And so he was at our church.
So he was his name is Butch, and God bless the dead. He passed away several years ago, but they were an intricate part of of us getting together. So he was down there in Crescent City Butch was telling Derek about me, and my mother and in-laws friend, sister Willette, was sharing, there's this beautiful girl here, would be great for your son. So they were trying to play matchmaker.
Yeah.
But what they didn't know is that God matched us by himself. Like, when I remember this, and this sounds crazy though, but I remember they came to our church when they were the Spiritual Wonders.
No, we were the
Something Wonders, right?
We were the Sons of Faith.
Sons of Faith. Okay, so they were Sons of Faith, came to our church. And I remember him then. I didn't remember him in 1999. I remember him before that. And I remember how tall he was. He was skinny and tall. And he was standing over there by the drums. I remember all of that. But then in 1999, I could not tell which one was him. I really couldn't. I didn't put two and two together later. And I remember that the Lord was bringing his face. And it was so crazy because it wasn't his whole face. It was just like his whole head in the sky. Like, I would see his face. Like, the Lord was revealing him to me. And I didn't know what that meant because I don't remember him looking like that. Like, I was seeing him looking how he looked now. But back in the day, that was what he was looking like. And so the Lord revealed it to me. And it was a revelation for me because I always, as young girls, women anyway, we want to get married. We have aspirations to get married, like that fairy tale. And so I knew I wanted to be a wife and a mother one day, but not knowing exactly how it was going to happen. So just believing and having faith that you will be married one day was part of my story, as far as not knowing how it was going to happen, but it did.
Correction. We were the Gospel Wonders.
I said that. Thank you, Mom.
But wait a minute.
That's what I just said. I said the Gospel Wonders.
Our names changed over the years. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting though, but thank you, Mom, for sowing division in my marriage tonight. Thank you for that.
No, she didn't.
But I'm just joking.
But yeah, so
but at the same time though,
mm-hmm.
when you talk about seeing the face, and what's crazy is literally the same thing was happening to me. For whatever reason, I would always see your face. Like, I would always see your face. I was like, man, like, and I didn't know your name. I didn't know anything at the time, but I would always see your face. And it was something that wouldn't let me forget you. It wouldn't let me. And then that, like you said, God was behind the scenes orchestrating through the gentleman at our church, who said, I know it. I was getting the same thing, that, there's this girl, Derek, I think that you would really, really like.
Somebody asked me if I'm a McGriff. My sister is a McGriff. She married into the McGriff family. She married Pastor Carlton McGriff. And my sister is Melissa. So yes.
They look alike.
And they're my family. So you might as well call me a McGriff too. I grew up with them. I love the whole McGriff family. So yes, that was Jannard Hawkins. So thank you for that question. But so fast forward a little bit, we back and forth. We kind of were going back and forth with. We never had met at that time and never had talked to each other. But
thank you, Pastor Master.
It was something that happened. It was a funeral that we were right. having in Callahan. So I went to Callahan, Florida, Church of God by Faith in Callahan. Pastor Robert McGriff Sr. was our pastor during that time. And we called him Granddaddy because the McGriff family, that was a family church. So we all called him Granddaddy. And there was a funeral that we were going to. And my father-in-law, his dad, came. And at this time, he wasn't my father-in-law. So I didn't know him. And I got to meet him first. He was the first person I met. I didn't even meet him. I didn't meet any of his family but his father. And so his father came with Butch to the funeral. So I got a chance to meet him. And Butch told me to write my phone number down and give it to him so he could give it to Derek.
So I sent them there like Joshua and Caleb to go scout out the land.
Whatever.
That's what they were doing.
But one thing I remember about my father-in-law that was so sweet was, it's so intimidating to meet parents. If you think back when you were dating and courting and stuff, to meet parents was so nerve-wracking. But one thing I remember that he made me feel so welcomed. He was like, it was a pleasure to meet you. I know that we will see each other again very soon. And so that made me feel like I had like a foot in the door already. Like, I don't know, like that right there just really solidified um, that his family was going to be. Because here's the thing, you could get married, and a lot of people say you're marrying the family. Um, I believe that you are being blessed with another family.
Yeah.
And so I feel like marrying him allowed me to be blessed with a second mother and a second father and brothers. I do take on like my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, as my brother, and he has 3 brothers. So they're my brothers too. And I don't have brothers. I only have one sibling who is my sister Melissa. So that was a blessing. And so then that's all that happened in several months. Well, how long did it take you to call me? You got the number.
Yeah. So
that day.
So to bring everybody up to speed, I saw we had a few people. So one of the gentlemen from our church told me that I'd be good for her. Butch, as we called him. Sister Willette said, "Oh, Pam, which is my mom, she'll be good for him." Dad goes up to the funeral, sees her, and I was like, "If you, yeah, the whole the whole time, get me her number. I've been hearing so much about this young lady, so get me her number so that I can call." And so they got back from the funeral, came back. My dad was like, "Hey, D, here go that number that, and I gave him like a little questionnaire, how she looked." Saying, "Oh yeah, D." My dad, he just kind of like, she a pretty young lady and all of this stuff. And he gave me her number. And I think I may have waited like a day or so, because that funeral was a Saturday.
So it was September then.
Yeah, it would have been in September. It would have been early September, perhaps.
So then you waited a couple weeks.
No.
Because you called me on Chris's birthday.
Yeah, I'm saying it may have been a little early. Whenever that, yeah, sometime around there. But because it was right, the 24th. So it may have been, I don't know what day that was, but I waited a couple days, maybe weeks, I don't know, to call. And finally, because back then it was before, and this was 23 years ago, 22 years ago. Cell phones weren't as prevalent. You may have had a cell phone,
it was
but
a flip phone.
It was a flip phone, and you had to buy minutes, or at least I did. And anyway, so I called and I picked up the phone. I still remember that number by heart. I called it so much. So I called, and I think I may have cleared my voice. Called the phone. "Hello, may I please speak to Melanie?" And she answers the phone.
My mom answered the phone.
Yeah. Well, when mom answered, gave it to Melanie.
And I remember, like that popular show, Love is Blind, that's on Netflix. We had our own Love is Blind.
Absolutely.
Because we fell in love without really even seeing each other. Like you were saying.
But tell them the attitude you gave me when I got on. That's what I was getting to. You was like,
yeah, well, here's the thing.
Yeah,
like
let's tell the people
I was
the truth,
so in love with God. Like God was like my everything. He still is. But I'm saying, I took that because someone had told me back when I got saved, someone had told me that when you're single, be selfish in the fact that you have so much time with God and you have so much time to learn yourself and learn who you want to become and kind of become that person before you get married, because
who you are.
That's how we started our marriage ministry, because we believe so much in being 100% yourself. You know how people be saying marriage or relationships are 50-50. No, it's 100-100. I have to be whole and he has to be whole. And so I was working on my 100% at that time. Like I was not thinking about a guy. So even when he did call, I was still wanting to be selfish at the time. So I did give him an attitude like, you better be worth my phone call. Like, you better be worth the time, because I'm loving being by myself right now.
And that's the thing, I pursued, and and the verdict is still out. Thank you all for the anniversary wishes. Good to see you, Brother Abraham. But the thing about it is,
thank you, Miss Gail.
They say, he that findeth the wife findeth a good thing. And notice it didn't say he that findeth the woman. Right. It said he that findeth a wife. And sometimes, we talk about wholeness and being whole. You have to be, especially if you're courting and you're looking for a husband. You have to be preparing for that. And I think, as she said, you working on her wholeness. I believe I was doing the same thing. Still had a lot of work to do, but I picked up the phone and she was like, "Who is this?"
Hey, Say.
Like, she was like, "Who is this? Hey, who is this?" And so I'm like, "Okay."
Cassadra said, "Laugh out loud. Period. You better be worth my phone call." I know that's right. Say it. Okay.
Yeah, and
time is precious.
Absolutely. So I called and I'm like, okay, hopefully this is gonna go the way that I planned it. So we started talking, and it's extremely important. We talk about, Melanie was talking about that show Love is Blind. And one of the things that I think that was extreme benefit for us is the fact that we didn't have social media. We didn't have, when I tell you, we didn't have cell phones readily available. Yeah. I used to have to buy minutes and it cost.
To do FaceTime.
Right. And it was none of that. The only thing that she was able to hear was my voice. The only thing I was able to hear was her voice. And then at that time, we were also writing letters, but I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves. But we spoke, we just talked.
Yeah.
And talked every single night. We talked.
And that first conversation was like maybe a 30-minute phone call. But I think what's so important, and thinking back on that whole time, we truly did not see each other for about 3 months. So we met on September 24th of 2000, which is his youngest brother's birthday. He called me on that day, which is 3 days after my birthday. And it's funny because when I say you are blessed with family, like even all of our children and all of his brother's children, even my sister and my brother-in-law's children, they're all around the same ages, so same birthdays. A lot of our children's birthdays are a few days apart from each other, and so are we. So his youngest brother is Chris. He's September 24th. I'm September 21st. So I had a birthday, and then he called me, and like we were saying, that phone call is so important because that is the foundation of our relationship, was really talking on the phone, because we didn't have FaceTime or any of that stuff. I think the internet was just really pretty much getting started. Popular. If you think about it now, 2006, YouTube started. So we were still 6 years from YouTube even starting. So this was like the beginning of the internet space and the digital world. So, but I would say now, even if we were dating now, I would say take some time away from social media. Take some time of trying to always post where you're at on Instagram and TikTok and all that type of stuff. Really get offline and really get to know each other, because that can become a distraction. We had no distractions. And a lot of it was we didn't even get a chance to see each other's faces. We didn't get a chance to see each other in person until 3 months later. So fast forwarding a little bit, we talked for 3 months. So all of the rest of September, all of October, and here comes November. Now, back in the day, y'all remember those Friday night church services, Bible studies, where you are totally exhausted. Because at that time, I was working in corporate America. I was working at Prudential U.S. Healthcare at that time, full time, and I was modeling. I was modeling and teaching modeling. So after I would get off work at 5 o'clock, well, like 4:30, I would go to Denise Carroll Models and Talents over there in the south side of Jacksonville and teach modeling for 2 hours, and then go to church on Friday night. And so this particular Friday night, I just put on anything because I was like so tired. I put on some clogs and a long jean skirt. Basically, I was not happy with my fashion that night. I will truly admit that, because I love fashion, and I just kind of came there looking cray a little bit. But and I'm just sitting in church, and my deacon, he's like a father-in-law to me, which is my sister's father-in-law, my sister's husband's father. He was like, Sister Melanie, you got a phone call in the office. And I was like, who is calling me at church? Like, I don't get phone calls at church. So I'm like, okay. So I get up and go into the office.
Did you suspect it was me?
No, I had no idea. I'm like, like, who was calling me at church? I didn't know it was like my mom. I didn't know like what was happening. Because at this time, my sister was married already. So she was, out of the house. So it was just me and my mom. So I'm like, maybe it's my mom calling. And so I'm like, hello. And then he was like,
Bishop Harris.
Hey, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop. And so I am like, hello. And he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, fine. And he's like, where are you? I was like, at church.
That was my voice.
I don't know what your voice. I'm trying to like make up your voice. Like,
hey, that sounds like a creep.
But you were like, no, actually, Sister Willette answered the phone. Yes, that's what it was. Sister Willette answered the phone and was like, hey,
I think she knew we were coming.
Hey, baby, how you doing? And I was like, fine. She was like, well, I have somebody here that wants to say hi to you. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he get on the phone talking about, hey. And I was like, so that means I already knew that he was in Jacksonville. So I was already like, wait.
Now let me tell you how ride or die my family is.
My gosh.
That I didn't just come by myself. See, that's a nugget.
And knowing my mother-in-law now,
that's a nugget.
Probably was her idea.
And that's a nugget. Yeah, she's always trying to pull us together, but that's a nugget. You don't just marry the individual. Right. You marry the family.
Yeah.
I mean, you become connected to the family. So we got in the car, me, my dad, my mom, my brothers, and we all were going to church. We said, okay, this is their church night, that Friday night. We knew that Callahan was having church on Friday.
That was the most nerve-wracking thing, because when he was saying, like, and I could hear, like, my mother-in-law in the background talking, and they're all talking and giggling and stuff. I'm like, and then I looked down at my clothes, like, I ain't going out like that. I hung up with him because I knew they were coming. I was like, grab my sister. We was like, we going in the bathroom. We got to get things together. Look, honey, even if you think that you look bad, always make yourself look good. Make yourself feel more confident. Because I was like, okay, if I meet him for the first time, because, I don't even know if we officially said that we were boyfriend and girlfriend, or if we were dating or whatever.
We got to go back to the conversation. We skipped that. Hey, Bishop Harris, let me tell you what happened. I'm talking to you on this one, Attorney Harris.
And we have so much similar stories. You listening to this?
I got something. This is for you, Attorney. So on the phone, the first conversation we had, the reason why there was no official, hey, will you be my girlfriend? Will you be my boyfriend? Is because during our first conversation, I told her.
He did.
I told her. I said, you listening, Attorney Harris? I said, you're going to be my wife.
And
what did you think?
And I was like.
And the Holy Ghost said, whoop. The Holy Ghost she wanted to hang up, but the Holy Ghost wouldn't let her because the prophetic word had already been spoken. And she
bring the spirit into this. Listen.
Look beside me now. What am I a lying prophet? If I'm a lying,
but just don't say that. Like if you're dating, just don't do that.
But listen. I mean,
that's scary. Like there's some women out here who would be scared. Like you could be a creep.
I wasn't a creep. She's sitting right here beside me.
But I'm just saying.
What I'm telling you all is that we skipped that period because I heard from the Lord. Oh. I heard from the Lord, and then I told her that, and she did not hang up. She didn't. Why? Because I believe that there was a witness down on the inside of her that said, I think he's right. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt. I think he's right. And again, that's not the conventional way of doing that. Of course, we're in a different time, I feel, but that's not the conventional way to do that. But because you do want to get to know, because even though I said that, there was still stuff that we had to learn about each other and work it out. But I felt without a shadow of a doubt that this was going to be my wife.
And I want to, we're going to take breaks in between just to say comments, because I want to just make sure we acknowledge everybody that's on. Thank you, Cousin T, for the anniversary blessings. Wendy Laverne, thank you, boo. Kelly, thank you. Portia, thank you. And then Jannard, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Jannard Hawkins Sr. said, I dated my wife long distance. She was in Florida. I was in Hawaii. We have been married for 27 years.
It works. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Man. That's amazing. And I think we were long distance. He was down in Crescent City. I was in Jacksonville. Of course, we were both in Florida, but we were an hour and a half apart from each other. And I had a life in Jacksonville at the time, and so did he down there. So it's not like we can get up and move to either city at this point, because we're just still trying to get to know each other. So we were very serious about what we both were doing. We were career oriented, so we had things going on. So that's the thing that you have to deal with, is making sure that who you're making a connection with is somebody that will be worth your time and that you would move for. Would you move for them? Especially if you're long distance.
Absolutely.
So,
and go ahead. I'm sorry.
So moving forward a little bit through the story, because we already knew that this would take forever. We're just going to talk about this, and then we'll probably fast forward to our kids and stuff like that. But this was like very important to just share like this, the beginning part. So that evening, church is over, and you know how it's like, well, here's the thing. Okay, so my sister helped me out. Thank you, Melissa, if you're on watching. I love you. That's why she's my best friend forever. He is my best friend, but my sister is my best friend forever. Like, we've been together forever since we were children. And so she helped me out, got my hair together, got my clothes together. We were good. And so I sat back down in church. And then you know how it is, like when you feel like, I heard the door creak open, like that old church door, the old
how it
sanctified
was
church
when
door.
the Shekinah glory comes in.
And it was like all these footsteps, because I wasn't sure if it was just him or who. And it was just like, they just kept coming. So I'm like, I turned around and I just see everybody. I was like, he did not even just bring himself. He brought his whole entire. Mom, do you remember that? I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like, okay. And it's like, you feel like a hole being burned in the back of your head. Like, he sat right behind me. He didn't like try to sit on the other side or in the back. He sat like,
I came there to see you. Where am I going? Where am I going? I came there for you. I came there to see you. I sat there. We went through the Bible study.
I'm serious. Look, I was not into the scripture. I don't know what scripture he was reading from. I don't know what was going on. I was just so nervous the whole entire night. And then the night was over, though the church service was over. And so then it's like we had to meet, and see face to face. At this point, let me back up a little bit too. So at this point, we had wrote letters to each other. At the time, like I said, I was modeling. So I sent him my comp card. I sent him some, pictures of me and stuff. And he sent me pictures. And so we knew what each other looked like at this time. And
we were literally writing. We were writing letters though. Like literally, I would write letters. I think we still got them.
Yeah.
We still got the letters, writing 3 and 4 page letters to each other. It was just a different style of communication.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I couldn't see you sometimes. And I'll say this right here as we talk about one of our church family members, Minister Allen. She said that this is what this generation needs. And what I say sometimes is, so what social media has done, and we're on social media, so we can't diss it. But what I'm saying is sometimes it doesn't leave much to the imagination.
Right.
When you're advertising and you're putting everything out, sometimes it doesn't leave much. And the thing that I appreciate, and no diss to nobody and no condemnation to anybody, but it doesn't leave much to the imagination. And I think that was helpful to us, because I would just look at your pictures, I would write letters. I had to think stuff through, I couldn't, none of that. It was very, in a traditional sense. I would say that part of it was extremely traditional.
It was.
In terms of how we met. But after we left the church, we went out to eat.
Yeah. We went to Shoney's, and that's where I worked. I worked at Shoney's.
Part-time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't working there then, because this was what?
Yeah, this was after that.
I had worked at Shoney's from 2016, 2018. And 1996 to 1998. And fun fact, I waited on Little Kim back when she just first came out. So she left me a $50 tip. I was so happy. But anyway, so we met there, and Shoney's has a breakfast bar. Well, they have a seafood bar from like 8 o'clock to 10. And then it turns over to a breakfast bar at 10 o'clock. So basically, you have the drunks that come in to eat the seafood bar, and then you have the church folks that come in at 10 o'clock.
Breakfast.
Yes, to get the breakfast.
We were the church folks.
We were the church folks that night, and he was so nervous that
I still remember what I was wearing.
Came back from getting his food, and he spilled his grits like hot grits all over his pants and stuff. Like, he was just so nervous, which I thought was super cute. One thing let's talk about how we felt when we first saw each other. Like, I will say, I saw his picture and everything, but seeing somebody in person is a lot different than seeing them on picture. So when I saw him in person, I was like, wow, he's tall, dark, and handsome. And I didn't mention this. So when I first got saved in 2000, from what the sister in the church, the mother, I think it was a mother in the church that told me that when you are single, that is your time to be selfish and love on the Lord and figure out who you are. And so I knew I had aspirations for marriage, but I know that wasn't going to happen right away. So what I did is I wrote a list, and I, and it wasn't a long list. I think I had 5 things on the list, and I said he has to love the Lord of his life, tall, dark, and handsome, be an entrepreneur, love his family, like the things that I love, and be like, ambitious and outgoing or something like that. I'm ambitious, or I can't really remember the whole list. And I tucked it in my Bible, and I forgot about it. And then when I realized after meeting him, he was all of those things on my list. And I'm just telling any young lady right now who is having aspirations for being married, not saying that you have to write a list. It could be a prayer. It could be a list. It could be a prayer, whatever you want. But really define what you want out of your spouse. Like, what do you want out of him? Like, and because marriage is not all about just marrying somebody and having offspring. It's a purpose. Like, we have a purpose together in life that goes beyond just saying I do.
Right. And what are the non-negotiables? Yeah. So, what are the non-negotiables, and again, like Mel was saying, it ain't about a list, but you have to know what you want and you have to know what you don't want. Exactly. And then, when we talk about being unequally yoked, I feel like if you're a believer, if you're saved, the person that you date needs to be saved.
Absolutely.
They need, and then you also need to make sure, and this might sound funny, but then you got to find out what kind of saved are they. Are they the saved that can still live how they want to live and do what they want to do? Or is it a committed type of relationship with God? Because it matters. It matters. That type of stuff matters. And sometimes, people can be so desperate. Yeah. To where you kind of cast your and I'm not talking about having these wild expectations and these unrealistic expectations, but I'm talking about some things that are some non-negotiables. Have you seen the brother in all of the seasons? How does he act when he get mad? How is he when he's frustrated? And the one thing that I love, as we kind of started talking about how it was when I saw her, I love the way she carried herself. She left a lot to the imagination. You know what I mean? I mean, for real, she was proper, and I'm saying just dressed well, put together, and so pretty. And I think that's what I told her. I said, girl, I said, man, I was like, you are so pretty. Yeah. I told her that, like, my eyes. Yeah, and I complimented her. I told her how, and I wasn't talking about her body. I wasn't talking about any of that, because really what I did, because the first thing that I did, though, what I'll say is that I fell in love with your mind. Yeah. Through conversation, I fell in love with that. And I felt like God had a lot, because I was in the business. Look, they taught us, and I don't know what they teaching now, but they taught us that, at a certain, you date at a certain point, you date to marry. Absolutely. At a certain point in your life, it ain't no time to be experimenting. At some point, it ain't no time to be. You have to make what you mean. You dating multiple people now, like that worldly type of system. That stuff. I mean, it's not popular, but the truth of the matter is, you have to really, really. Well, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Finish your sentence. You have to really, really what? That might be important.
The truth of the matter is this. You have to, number one, you have to know what you want. Yeah. And then you have to make sure that you're not settling just for the sake of saying that I got somebody.
Absolutely. And I will say this, and then I want to read some comments because I'm trying to make sure we get to the comments too, because some of y'all are dropping some gems. My auntie Dot is in here. I'm going to read her
That's
comment
Terrell.
in a minute. So to piggyback of what he said, we talk so much to where he would just have to say hello, and I knew if he was mad, sad, happy, just by his hello. So I think that's so important in marriage. Life can get so busy to where you hardly are able to speak. It's like work, kids, this, that, and everything. And we're going to talk about next the 20 life lessons, because we talked about that the night of our anniversary. It's always important to come together on your anniversary and not just celebrate and go out and do all that, but really talk and connect from that 1 year, from 19 to 20. What did we learn, and what do we need from each other that we may have dropped the ball on. It's okay. Marriage is hard. Marriage is hard work, but it's hard, but it's heavenly at the same time. Like you have to make sure that you are working on it. And I want to read my auntie Dot.
Why don't you read that?
Long distance can work. Phone calls and letters between Jacksonville and Fort Lauderdale. So my auntie Dot lived in Fort Lauderdale, and Uncle Jeff lived in Jacksonville. Greyhound bus rides every now and then. Fast forward 41 years this month. So they're in March too. Happy anniversary. God is amazing. Fill in the blank, basically, is what she said. So that is amazing. 41 years, y'all. Like, and I know if she were on here, my mother-in-law, they're 42, right?
Yeah, 42. A couple weeks ago.
Yes, February 23rd. They were 42. So, y'all can testify and say it's work, it's hard work, but it's rewarding at the same time. So, it's sacrifice.
Absolutely. It's work. It's just work, but it's so rewarding and so fulfilling. And as I ran to the restroom to clean those grits off my pants, I was like, man, this girl gonna think I'm a goofball out here. So
it kind of did, but I think it was cute.
Yeah, it was. But when you got grits on your pants and you trying to impress this girl, it just ain't fun. So we came back, we chatted for a little while. She went her way back home. We went back to I don't know if we stayed with Sister Willette and them or not, but either way, I think we may have went back home or something. Maybe we had to sing there or sing somewhere. We went home. Our relationship kind of kept going by phone.
Yep.
You would come to see me.
Yeah, we would visit.
I would come to see you.
And I say do that. A lot of times people be like, oh, let him come see you. Let him come see. I do agree with that. Majority of the trips, 42 years. Yep. Majority of the trips, he should be coming to see me. But it's important that you go down there and see him. To me, I felt like seeing him around his family and his brothers.
How I treated my mom, how I respected my dad, all of that stuff.
The church, how he acted. I stayed and missed my church. I got permission. Of course, let's do things right and in orderly of the church that we're a part of. But I asked to, I got asked to be excused. And I wanted to see what it was like for church for him and what that experience was like. I wanted the full experience because, you don't get to really see the full. He might be different around me than he is around his family. I wanted to see that dynamic. Right. I wanted to see, him around his brothers and how they act. And just him around his brothers is so crazy and fun. And that's one thing too. I love to laugh and have a good time. So to be around a family that's always clowning and always acting crazy, it's just, you could have a stressed day and get on the phone and, Derek's like, guess what happened? Or guess what we're doing? Whatever. And you could laugh. It's great. So fast forward more, we ended up getting married and, oh, thank you. I want to say, okay, so let's say this. So we dated for 1.5 years, and it probably would have been a year. Because when you proposed, the venue that we wanted was booked for, another 6 months or something. So we ended up courting for a year and a half. That's why it's really 20 years and 22 years that we've been knowing each other, because it was almost 2 years before we got married. Um, oh, thank you, Sister Aaliyah. So, okay. So we said how we felt when we first met. So now let's go into, how did you know that I was the one? Because here's the thing: you could initially like somebody and feel like, okay, I want to get this going. But there's a difference between dating somebody to get to know them and then know that they are your person, your husband or wife.
So I'm gonna tell you a few things. That's a long list.
And if you guys have questions, please drop them down in the comments.
That's a long list. Watch this. This is one of our extended family from the DMV. This is Mama Vivian. She said, "I thank God that my husband and I will celebrate 55 years in October." That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Keep the communication between each other. No conversation is off the table. Laugh and hug a lot. And thank you for that, Mama Vivian. Thank you so much for that. And I think that's important. And that's
Absolutely.
Wisdom for us. Mm-hmm. We're 20 years and 55 years is an amazing milestone.
Absolutely.
And it's beautiful to see those type of examples to look up to. My parents and so many others on this live. But, I would say this right here. I was, and I still am, but I was sold out to the Lord.
Yeah.
And I wanted something that was real. I wanted companionship. When you want to be married, and when you want to be married for the right reasons. And one of the things that it helped me understand who it was, number one, was our conversation. Because again, I didn't fall in love with her body. I fell in love with her mind. Now, obviously, I'm not blind. I saw how good she looked. This girl fine. She bad. You don't forget that stuff. And I was like, and I saw that. And that's the step. I mean, we're not crazy. You gotta like what you see.
Right.
And that helped me. I like what I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not so spiritual to where I'm blind, but I like what I saw. That was one.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, I was like, okay, and she's saved, and she my kind of saved. The save that just you can't just do and say and act any kind of way.
Right.
That was the conviction that I had. That was another thing. And then one time, again, we have a singing group, and we've been singing for over 22 years. We were singing at all of our family reunions. They would have us sing. So we were at one of my aunt's houses she had came down Thanksgiving, and spent, it was Thanksgiving.
The next month.
Yeah, the next month.
We met in October, and then
and she came for Thanksgiving. And then we were singing. They would always have us singing, and we were singing a song. We were singing one of our songs, "Name It, Claim It," and that my dad was singing, was backing them up.
That's still my favorite song.
The girl started shouting in there. I was like, okay, so she
and I was so embarrassed. Like, why do you bring up like all my embarrassing moments?
No, but that was like, okay, so that's what we do over here on this side of holiness. So on this side. So I said, okay, so that was good. So I was like, man, that's a plus. And plus, again, I had already gotten a revelation before, so that was just additional confirmation to that point. I mean, and fast forward, how did you know though? I mean, you said you talked about your letter, and all of that.
Well, here, and this sounds stupid, and this might sound shallow, but God gave me several, miracle signs and wonders. He gave me several signs that he was my husband. One, I was seeing his face, so can't forget that, and he was seeing mine in the sky, like a cartoon, because I just saw his face. And then the second one was this. Okay, so at the time of me meeting him, like when we met each other and found out, what your last name was, and you met my last name. His last name is Blue. Okay, obviously, yes. But for me, that meant so much because my birthstone is a sapphire. It's sapphire blue. At the time, my favorite color, I still love blue, but it's not as much as I did then. Back then, I was crazy about blue. And his last name was Blue. So I was like, one for the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Hey, glory.
Blue, blue, blue. Like, okay. Like, that was a huge sign. But also, just in talking with him, And okay, another intricate part was his grandmother. His grandmother was a very intricate part in the beginning of our relationship because I stayed with her. I stayed in my mother-in-law's bed
that she grew
that
up
she
in.
grew up in when I would come visit. And that was another respect thing too. I didn't stay in the house with him. I stayed at his grandparents' house. And just hearing the stories of her and talking with her about him from when he was a little boy all the way. And then, hearing the stories that my mother in law would share with me, just hearing really of who he is with his character at the time. You want a respectful man. You want a man that loves his family, that loves his mother, and he absolutely cherishes his mother and his grandmother. And those are the two important women matriarchs of the family, and he loved them. And so for me, that was a huge sign because that's the order of respect, and I know how he'll love and respect me, vice versa.
And that was the thing though. My parents, grandparents, mom and dad, they were serious about that type of stuff. Like, you don't be around here playing with these girls.
Yep.
Be real about what you're doing. And that was very, very important. I think, that was just a conviction that I had. I'm not by no means saying that I was perfect or am perfect, but that was just something. There's a level of sincerity that, that I think that was instilled in me to, just be real. Be real. If it's not going, if you ain't feeling it, leave it alone. But again, yes,
Don't
there was
lead
this,
anybody on
right,
to
don't
me.
lead anybody on. And yes, there was this spiritual element that we talking about, but then there was also some very practical things that God had to confirm, to prove things to us about, and to, as we say, to confirm. It might have been like Gideon. God can say a thing, but sometimes you have to, you have to go through certain things and all of that. So fast forward, um, March the 2nd,
Yep.
we got married.
We got married.
We got married. And we had a wedding. Showed you the picture of that day. It's hard to believe. I mean, looking at just looking at those pictures, how long that's been ago, and the type. So let me ask you a question. Do you feel like I'm the same, or you're the same? Do you feel like you're the same person in that picture uh, right now?
I mean, you ain't got to even finish the sentence. I don't, but I love my wedding dress. My wedding dress was so beautiful. I felt like a princess that day. But no, I don't feel like the same person. I feel like, okay, it's been 20 years. I was 23 when I got married, and I'll be 43 this year. So it's been 20 years. And so thinking back on the 20, like really thinking back when we got married, we were so green. We didn't know a lot, like, yes, I was in corporate America. Yes, I had a background of all this different stuff and experience. But when it comes to starting your own separate family, like building something together, in the beginning, we had some we bumped heads quite a bit trying to figure out how we're going to do this. And so,
Yeah.
you're not going to get it right all the time, but I would say those initial conversations, let them be hard. Let them be the hard conversations, asking, you know about finance, and asking about children, and uproot rearing them, and how do you want to raise your children, and where are we going to move. Like, it has to be a lot of communication on
Right.
how you're going to build out this
Nothing
relationship.
can be off the table, because oftentimes, sometimes we can allow the trauma, the issues from our past
To affect
to
us.
to impact our present, especially when you're dealing with another person. Because I'm the sum total of all that Derek Blue is and was. Derek's upbringing, his good, his bad, his disappointments, his confusions, and here I am meeting an entirely different person, and I'm saying, hey, let's do life together. Let's do life together. Let's communicate. I mean, let's do stuff. And to be honest with you, the person that y'all saw on that picture, um I don't know where he went, because I realized
He
some things.
evolved.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting ready to say. I think that person evolved. Number one, um I was half that size. I mean, I was half that size. I'm much larger now, but in terms of just mentally, the changes that you undergo when you truly love somebody, and now I'm talking to married people, but when you truly love somebody, one thing that we said when we got married is this: what? Divorce is not an option. It's not an option. Now, recognizing I'm not going to put my hands on you.
Right.
And I'm not going to sleep with nobody else because I don't want nobody else.
Right.
If I wanted somebody else, I would have married somebody else. And that was just a negotiable. But I do not want anybody else. And we said this to each other: divorce is not an option.
It's not an option.
And
we got to figure it out.
We're going to figure things out. We're going to work it. And in that cleaving, in that leaving process, and bumping heads, and having to grow and having to learn, and actually growing up together, we actually grew up together. I mean, I don't think I was, I don't, you know, I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was a kid, and there's a lot of mistakes that I made, a lot of things that I did that, you know, man, if I could go back and talk, if this Derek could go back and talk to him, I'd grab that boy and say, man, straighten up, do this, don't say that, don't act that way. And that stuff is serious. Yeah. It's serious. And sometimes you can be bringing your baggage into another relationship and unpacking it right there, and it could be catastrophic.
And like moving into when we started having kids, you know, our first child came, I got pregnant 6 months into our marriage. And would I recommend that? No, I wouldn't, because we're still trying to get to know each other. But, you know,
at that age,
at 23, you know, when you, and it's, you know, when you're getting married over the age of 30, you know yourself. I mean, your 20s, you're trying to figure out who you are. And so, you know, a lot of people get married in their 20s, so not knocking it. But at 23 and 24,
for us,
and then 24 and 25, having our first child, you know, we were trying to figure things out and who we were, on top of now figuring out how to parent this child. And moving
who's now 18, by the way.
Who is definitely 18, and an amazing young man. So blessed to have him in our lives, and as well as all of our children. But I think that you have to know what you're getting yourself into, you know, and be willing to bend, you know, not always being the one that has to compromise, but compromise has to be part of your makeup.
Absolutely.
It has to be. Like, giving in, you don't always have to be right. You don't always have to have the last word. You know, you have to figure this out. And for the most part, you know, after having DJ, you know, it's Derek the second. So we call him DJ. All his life he's been DJ. So he's DJ or D when we're mad, or like D. He's D. So raising him was, you know, and then we really had to become an adult. We had to, because when we got married, we moved in with my mom and lived in my bedroom upstairs. And, you know, even that had its own, you know, situations. But I thank God my mom opened her door to us. She did. You know, and my mother and father-in-law at some point, years later, we needed to move with them. And so it's just like, you know, moving into now, you know, let's pick it up to where we are right now, you know. Even in, okay, I counted this too, and I hope you don't think I'm crazy, but we lived in about 4 apartments throughout our whole entire marriage. 3 in Jacksonville and 1 here when we moved here to Tampa area in Valrico
12 years ago.
And then we moved in with his parents at one point, and we moved in with my parents in the beginning. And then, you know, thinking back now to where we are, we've been in this home where we have been in this home for like 9 years now, and raised 5 children. Oldest 18, youngest is 9. We have 3 boys, 2 girls. DJ, who is 18, Darian, who is 16, Melania, who is 14, Malia, who is 12, and Dalen, who is 9. And all of them are gifted and talented in their own right. Loving. DJ is our film and cinematography lover, short film. He loves producing music. Darian is our rapper. He loves to rap and write music. Melania is our actress and model, which taking after me. Malia is our brain. She is a mathematician and genius. She loves STEM, does math bowls. She was the National Honor Society president. Loves dance and gymnastics. Dalen is our little actor, karate personality, loves gaming and videos. So we raise and are raising five
Right.
beautiful children that are going to one day lead the legacy of our family.
Right. And you can't, and and of course we're fast forwarding through the growing pains of trying to, being married, but then entering kids into the equation. All of the hardships and whether it be deaths in the family, so many different things that really impact the marriage and the relationship. And we kind of talked about this a little bit, is that understanding that you evolve,
Yeah.
you change, and I'm sure that some of you all who've been married for even longer than that could understand this even better than us and say this even better than us, that sometimes you evolve, you change, you grow. Who I am at 43 is not who I was at 23, and all of those different things that kind of come along with that, and understanding that stuff, because we, throughout that process, we're giving the abbreviated version, but this is talking about bumping heads, different philosophies on marriage, different philosophies on finance, different philosophies on everything, on top of now introducing kids to that, on top of all of these different things, and just the basic issues that come along with life, from repossessions to I mean,
Just not being able to
you
handle
name
bills
it,
correctly.
not being
Yeah.
able to do things, and that right there, that's not what you're gonna get because she fine or he got good hair or y'all think y'all gonna have good kids. No. You got to get to know somebody, and as one of our viewers said, nothing is off the table. Nothing is off the table.
In
Talk about this
conversation.
stuff. This is grown folk stuff here, because marriage is not a game. It's not a joke. It's not one of them situations where you can just, oh, I'm gonna just pick another one.
Right.
Oh no, I'm gonna pick another one. It didn't work out. No, it's work. It's good. It's rewarding, but it's a work. It's a covenant.
And there are some, I wouldn't say rules, but there are some things that I will never do as a wife. Like, I will never embarrass my husband in public. I will never talk about him, things that I'm disliking or not getting, or whatever it is. You have to, if that's the case, don't marry him. If you're not going to cover him, as a wife, as a rib, I'm his rib. So I'm covering his heart. I'm covering his anointing. I'm covering his breath.
What else you
So
doing?
the things that, a lot of things, okay? This is going to be PG. But as a wife, it's a conviction that I hold to make sure I hold up my husband. And in public, I'm not going to do anything that would embarrass him. And that is something that I firmly believe in. And it's something that I know that a lot of times we see on reality TV, that it's cool to talk about your husband. It's cool to fight in public and argue in public. Like, if there's something that he does, we will talk about it behind closed doors.
Right.
And that is the issue in this new generation, of feeling that everything has to go on social media. If I'm mad it's mad day, so I'm going to get on here and
throw
make
off
a long post about
a
what
passive
I'm mad
aggressive
about.
post that's aimed at somebody.
It's aimed at either my husband or the
Somebody.
situation. Somebody gonna get it today. And I just think that we have to come back to a place to where we are respectful of marriage. Marriage is a covenant before God. And it's sacred and it's precious. And be careful who you confide in.
That's a fact.
Be careful of who you allow in your space to share and pour into you.
Can I say something? I want you to go.
Look,
go ahead.
We take pride in marriage counseling. and being mentors and being pastorship, leading people to Christ, leading people in marriage, leading people up to that day. Don't just pick anybody just to have that done and cross off your list so you can go get married.
Right.
It's more important of making sure that the people that are pouring into you have been through something, who are happy in their marriage.
Yeah.
Not people who are fighting and having so much turmoil, and you can see it and it's exposed. Like, you need to be around solid,
that's right,
Christian based, Holy Ghost, let's be real, Holy Ghost filled people
with wisdom, with wisdom and
Absolutely.
knowledge. So, it's good for fellowship. You be around like-minded people for fellowship purposes. Iron sharpens iron. But when you really, it's no way that me having never been married am going to get real solid. Not to say I can't get sound advice from my peers, but if you really want to get some wisdom, you talk to somebody who's been there and done that.
Absolutely.
And we, like I said, we counsel couples all the time. And
even after marriage.
And even after that, for premarital as well as marriage, because you need somebody to come alongside you.
Absolutely.
You need that. It's just the truth of the matter is, when we break our legs, we go to the doctor. But when something get broken in our marriage, we try to work it out. But sometimes you need a third party. Sometimes you might need to talk with somebody. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I say in addition to that is, one of the things that you have to make sure that when you're going, and it's okay to go to people, but you got to go to the right people. You got to go to people who are going to be vaults.
Yeah.
Folks who are going to pray for you, folks who are going to encourage you, folks who are going to be led by the Spirit of God to give you information, folks who are not going to be afraid to tell you that, no, you did that wrong. Right. You could have done that better. And sometimes in immaturity, we don't want to hear that, because we want to be right. And it doesn't matter if the marriage survives, as long as I can win the argument.
and let me add this into it. When you add business into it, when you add a church and pastorship into it, having a ministry, you have to make sure that you are following Christ. That your first ministry is home. True. Building. Let's talk about ministry first, and then we'll go into business. But ministry is a blessing, and especially if you're going into it together. Into ministry together. I'm not that type of first lady. I'm not a normal first lady. I'm a Jesus girl in jeans. You might see me in a pair of jeans and heels at service, but God is down in my heart and in my spirit. And, the way that we do church, we're not about all of the extra, the religion part of it. We're about the relationship of God. And so and we know that God is, we're very careful with that, with the church and the people that we are building this church with. And it's very important that our children understand that too, and are a part of everything too. They work in the church. Yeah. They're part of the church. And so building a relationship and building a marriage, you have to add your children into everything that you're doing, But I do think that there is a time that, when you're building a church, that you sit them down and explain how things are, because being a PK, and this is my first experience with it. My children are PKs. I wasn't a PK. He's a PK. But I wasn't a PK. So I'm learning this along with my children on making sure that they don't have that PK-ism.
Right. And that's the thing. And I think it's easy, especially if there are any pastors, ministers, aspiring people who really love God. I think it's easy. We have to be careful that we don't preach to other people and not minister to our first church. The Bible said that men, we should love our wives like Christ loved the church, gave himself for it. And I think a big part of that is, really, really being selfless in a way, and remembering you can't automatically just expect the kids and the wife and different people. They're not going to catch it by osmosis.
Right.
But I think that one of the lessons that I'm learning is to make sure that I minister in the house. This is the Church of Melanie Blue, and the blue and the five heartbeats, as we call them, in this house, and
Mm-hmm.
and doing that because you're married, you got work, you got life, you got kids. You're trying to make sure you're spending time and doing right by each other. Then you call into ministry. You have a church, and then you have the stuff that comes along with the church. You have to have the grace of God on your life, and God will allow you to be able to do that. But it's a matter of priority. And one of the things that I think that our kids even know this is that they know that she's first. They know that she is first, and they know that I'm first as it relates to that, because we have to make sure. I remember one time I was a kid, and my mom and dad were talking to me. I was maybe 10, 12 years old. I never forget this. And my mom asked me, and she may not even remember this. She said, Derek, when you get married, are you going to who you gonna love more? I was a little kid.
Yeah.
She said, are you gonna love me more, or you gonna love your wife more? And 10-year-old Derek said, I'm gonna love you more. You my mama. But she said, no, you're gonna have to love your wife. And that's really the thing right there, is understanding that the first church is your family. The first church is your wife. And I think it's extremely important, as and that's something that God really has been teaching me, and he's been showing me, is that I be considered an ambitious person. I go full speed ahead. And sometimes you have to kind of back up, and you have to slow down.
There is a certain atmosphere that has to take place in your home,
Yeah.
and the temperature of your home is really regulated by the wife. And a lot of times, sometimes I have to check my attitude at the door, because I could tell if I have an attitude, everybody has one because of me. And it's important that as you're married and you're growing as a family and as a married couple, that you understand those things, and you understand the frustration. Like the communication has to be so unlocked that there's nothing that can break it. I remember one time we had to talk about communication at a marriage conference in Palaca it was like a Palaca meeting, and a lot of the pastors and their wives were there. It was like a marriage conference, and our topic was communication. And I tell you, your gifting as a couple, your purpose as a couple, is the thing that is the issue. Is the thing that you have to work on, that you're struggling with, is your ministry. And communication was definitely a big thing, and we still deal with it every now and then, but for the most part, you have to understand how you communicate, and communicate effectively. And I remember I said this to him, and this, we need to kind of get this back into how we communicate. But I remember one time I said to him, I was like, okay, I'm just telling him about something. And sometimes I gotta realize what I need to share with him and what I don't. Because there's some things that I will share with him, and then there's some things I don't. I'll call my sister, and then my sister will be able to walk me through it, because she's my BFF. He's my BF, my best friend. She's my best friend forever. So she gets me, on a female tip, on a female point of view. And so I remember one time I was like telling him something. And of course, as a man, the very first thing that they try to do is
I go get my
fix
tools.
it.
You tell me the problem.
His head is like ready to resolve the issue, because he doesn't want me to have the issue anymore. He's like tired of it. He don't want to hear the whole story, because as women, we got to tell the story. Then we got to retell the story. Then we got to, I forgot this detail, so I got to tell the whole story all over again and add the detail.
And and meanwhile, I'm pulling out my tools, my measuring tape, because we get ready to fix it.
So I told him, I came up with something saying, okay, well, let's work on saying, okay, I'll say, come with your head, meaning fix it, or come with your heart, meaning just hear me. Like when you come with your heart, I don't need you to be trying to be in your head fixing nothing. Just hear me. I just need to just vent right now. I just need to say it. And that doesn't mean that I need you to fix it. And then, if I say, okay, come with your head, I need some help, we need to fix this, then bust out your, what's that, all the equipment you just got from that company?
All of it, the drills. I'm getting the
I was saying the
hammers, the
brand.
saws from Heart. Shout
From
out to
Heart.
Heart. But I'm coming to fix it, and that's true. Sometimes, and it's love, and sometimes, we talk about communication. Sometimes could be the lack of communication, but then it could also be the way that we communicate. So with that being said, what are 20? Let's talk about the 20 lessons, and it may not be 20.
Okay, Tiffany, they be ready to fix it, don't they?
Yeah, we want to fix it. We definitely want to fix it.
So let's go to the 20 lessons. We talked about a few of them at dinner that night. One of the things I kind of mentioned it in the top of the live, and those of you that are coming on now, please watch the replay, because we did share quite a bit. We really shared a whole story. So go back and rewatch. But one of the lessons that I thought about right away was checking in with each other, and not waiting a year to check in, but checking in, periodically to see where each other are, and not just being like, hey, how are you? No, like, how are you doing? Like, really, how are you doing? Really taking that moment, taking them in, separating yourself from the kids. The kids are very important. You need to spend time with them. But here's the thing that a lot of times, when they're babies and stuff, of course, they need us, and they need the nurturing. Even now they need us, because we got one that's college age, one in high school, another one that's about to leave middle school, go to high school. We got one in middle school and one in elementary. So they need us. But at the same time, it didn't start with kids. It started with him and I.
Right.
So you can't forget each other.
So check in. That's number one.
So check in. Mm-hmm.
Number two, we may not do 20, but we just gonna go.
Yeah.
But number two, here's what I'll say right here, and I'll use this as an example. I remember my iPhone here. Shout out to all of the iPhone users, and we're praying for you Android users. Y'all need to get saved.
Hope for you.
Y'all need to get saved. But I remember one time my iPhone wasn't working right. It really wasn't working. I mean, it was freezing up. It cut off, and then it just never cut back on. And I started panicking, going to Google, because I run businesses from this phone. Several businesses I run from my phone. Everybody has it. I send emails. I do everything, make deals on this phone. And I needed my phone, but it was not working. So I immediately started Googling. I started trying to find things. I tried everything. And then I took it back to the store. When I took it to Jesus, I took it back to the store, I realized that I had missed some updates. There were some telltale signs that I was missing, that I never allowed the phone to update. So point number two is this: don't miss the updates.
Right.
My wife is not the same 23-year-old woman that she was when we married, but now she's a 36-year-old mother. Now she's a mother who's a student. Now she's dealing with her stuff. Now she's building her own business and so many different things. And sometimes you can miss the update, and you can be upset.
Hey,
you can be upset because you're trying to love her, but she's evolved into something else.
Right.
If y'all and I wish y'all could understand. Yeah, I'm in love with the old you, and I'm upset because I can't resurrect the old you, but instead I should have been getting the updates and evolving with you, and not be upset with who you used to be, but love you for who God is bringing you into. So don't miss the update.
Don't miss the update. So we have check in, and don't miss the update. 3 is weather me through the storm. I can remember when I lost my mom in 2018, and she died this month in March 25th. And I tell you, that was the hardest season of my entire life. It still is hard. And so you have to get to the point where you can weather a storm with your spouse. And you don't know how you're going to handle grief until grief hits you on your front door. I never like I've seen people go through loss of parents, loss of children. I can't even imagine. But when it hit me slap in my face, this guy right here was by my side. And it's hard to go through something that you've never experienced before. And so, weathering the hard storms together is something that you have to do. It's hard to do. And it's even harder to, like know what they need. Like some nights I might just be up in the middle of the night in here in my living room crying. I'm not even in bed. I just can't sleep. Or I'm up in the bed watching TV because I can't sleep because I'm thinking about everything. And so just being with your spouse, and he's gone through loss. He lost his grandmother, and then 2 short years later he lost his grandfather and lost an aunt and an uncle. Like, it's just so much. And we've learned to console each other. We've learned to talk it through. And sometimes you don't know what you're going to say. Sometimes you don't know the right words to say. Nothing seems to be, it's a season, and you could be fine, and then all of a sudden you just see yourself and there's a faucet, you're just crying. So you just have to make sure that you're praying for your spouse, that you, even if you have to write them a letter and just slip it into, under their pillow, or slip it in their pants or something, that they're going to be able to read it. If you don't know, if there's conflict when you do try to talk about it with them, there's ways that you can share your concern and pray. And of course, prayer, it availeth much. So
absolutely,
that'll be the third thing that I'm thinking.
Then
Maybe we'll just do 5.
The fourth thing is have fun. I mean, have fun. Life can be hard.
Yeah.
It can be extremely hard, but it's important to have fun, because one thing that we say and we tell people is, I love my wife, but I also like my wife. And I think that's important. I think you said it earlier during this thing, is that you can love one another. Love is a decision that you make.
Yeah.
But when you like somebody, like, I want to be around you, I want to talk to you, I want to, and I would say, be sure to have fun. Like, life, people look at me and they automatically assume I'm a serious type person. And to be honest, I think I am, because of, what I do, and just the level of just so much that's going on. But what I always remember to do is laugh.
It depends on if you know him well. If you know him well, you've seen the goofy side. He's goofy, he's silly, he makes jokes. Sometimes they're super corny, sometimes they're funny.
I would probably say they're funny most of the time. They're funny.
Yeah, sometimes.
They're funny, but whatever.
And I would say, okay, so the next one I would say, so have fun. Yeah. I would say get a hobby together. A lot of times there are things that you guys do
tradition
to get, like, outside. Like, there are things that I love doing. I love going to events. I love shopping. He hates shopping, so I'll try to drag him with me to go shopping. I love fashion. Tampa is a big fashion area. There's Tampa Fashion Week, and St. Pete Fashion Week. So I'd be going to those events. I have so many photographer friends and model friends and fashion design friends that I love to meet and catch up with at those events. And I drag him with me because I want him to be a part of what I'm doing. And I think it's very important for your spouse to see you in your zone of genius, or your area that you love. And he was able to see that. Like, I miss modeling so much that I think back in 2017, 16, whatever, I can't remember. It was my birthday, and that's usually when they do the fashion week down here in September. And I dragged him to St. Pete Fashion Week, and we had the most funnest time. And I met some amazing people, and we're still connected today. So I would say make sure that you create hobbies to find that connection. Because like he does things by himself, I do things by myself, but there's things that we have to do together,
Right.
and reminiscing, on those type of things.
Wow. Yeah. I would say continue to pursue one another.
That's a good one.
Continue to pursue one another. When we were trying to get them,
Yep.
and then when we were trying to be got, you may on our mind. I was trying to get her. There's a certain posture that I had. There were certain things that I did in order to do that, and I think it's always important to keep doing that. To keep pursuing, to keep going after. To keep going after my wife. Keep going after your husband, to pursue them with everything, because it matters. Because here's at the end of the day, when you have a busy life, I run a not-for-profit organization. Shout out to that.
Shout out. 5508
Business Incubator, located 5508 North 50th Street, Tampa, Florida, 33610. I call it Wakanda because we make vibranium. Black Wall Street. But then also, we pastor a church together. My wife and I, we pastor a church together.
Activate Church.
Shout out to Activate Church, the Activate family. God is doing great things there. That's 6645 South Florida Avenue, Lakeland, Florida, 33813, Suite number 1. Come visit us. There will be a word from the Lord for you. Amen. But we do that. She has her own business, her own brand.
Glam Gorgeous Co. More coming soon.
Works with other companies. We have a family business together that we do, and Blueprint Ventures. We have several different things and partnerships and different things like that. And I'm saying that to say, to make this point. And we have 5 children, and they all are needy.
And Glam Gorgeous Co., just for anyone's interested, Glam Gorgeous Co. is a branding and marketing boutique firm that has launched last year, but I never really made a big deal about it. But more is coming. The real launch is coming in 2022.
And then we work with one of the nation's most powerful prophets.
That's right.
What the point that we trying to make? Yeah, one of the most valid voices in the nation that you all will hear, Dr. Tillman.
Dr. Latara Tillman.
And
She Essentials.
Yeah, She Essentials. Ministries. All of those, to all of that. And here's the point that I said all of that to say, you have to make time for the marriage. Sometimes you can be so busy building, quote unquote, building a family to where you neglect the marriage. And kids get off to college. All of this type of stuff happens. But then by the time the house is empty, you're wondering who is this? Who is this? What have we done? We've been ships passing in the night. And that's one of the things that we kind of said that we refuse to do. And those kind of updates and those check-ins are extremely important, and keeping that spice alive. It ain't nothing for me to chase her around the house. I might do that after we get off this live. I might harass her, chase her around this house a little bit, see what can happen.
I can't. See that? See what I have to deal with? No. And I will say this last thing. Never settle for mediocre. If you feel like you need more of something in your marriage, be open to share that. And be open to be like, I'm not settling. I'm not going to just be okie doke with it. I definitely want more. I want more of my husband. I want more of this. I remember I used to be like, whenever we get home and we're getting out the car, he'd be like, Darian, go help your mom. I'd be like, you help me, because you're going to get so used to not helping me that when these boys, because see, they quick to try to get cars. Darian is testing for his driver's permit next week. They're already dreaming of their dream car and everything. So when they get in their own car, they ain't gonna be studying me. They're not gonna be thinking about me. So I need you
How did this?
to be opening the door for me.
Don't I don't open the door for you?
You do, but sometimes I have to tell you. And I don't need. I mean, is chivalry dead? What's going on? Like, come on. Like, I need you to come open the door.
Okay.
More, like a lot.
All right. Just call me the doorman then, I guess.
You know, don't you guys want that? But I will say this: we were at a church service, and it was over, and I had told my husband to go get my shoes at the car, and he came in and got my shoes, and he had my shoes, my heels, because I had put on some flats, and he was holding my heels and my purse. And the first lady that was at the church, we were talking, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, he got your heels, and your purse." I was like, "Yes, he takes care of me, and I do the same thing for him." Ladies, don't let it be just he's chivalry to you. There's chivalry for men too. I mean, there's something that you could do for men as well to make him feel good and loved as well. So we do that for each other. And I think that's what's super important, is that it's not something that he's always doing. We're doing it for each other.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that we said this year, and the reason why 2022, the year 2022, and the fact that we've been married 20 years and together 22, so that's another 2022, we feel that this year is a double year for us. And believing in, here's the thing that I want to do a class, a workshop on this. This is so important, to where when you get together and you get married, there is a purpose for your marriage. There is a ministry for your marriage. There is a mission and vision for your family. Like, I do believe in familypreneurship. We cannot leave debt to our children. We have to build something to where we're building generational wealth. We're building legacy for your family. It's not all about money, so generation wealth, let's be real, it's not all about finance, but it's about having a clean slate for that next generation. That's wealthiness.
So here's that nugget: build something together.
Build something together, and get rid of the debts. Get rid of the things that will become unhealthy. So you're leaving generational unhealthiness. Leave generational wealth and health, and making sure that what you're building is edifying to God first. See, God is the CEO of our businesses. On paper, we're the CEO and everything, but spiritually, God is that CEO in our house. He's a CEO in our marriage. He's a CEO in our businesses, because God has to make sure I want to make sure I'm good with God. Like, I am on the right path with him. He has the lamp to my footpath. And so I'm not trying to walk in front of him, because he's the one that enlarges our territory. He's the one that puts us in rooms where people are talking about us and giving us that opportunity. So, this tonight was something that we've been wanting to do. I think we used to do lives a lot, like back in 2020 when we were under pandemic, and we would talk about different things like this. And, even back when I had my cooking show, Glam Kitchen, these are the type of conversations that we were able to have. And so to sit here tonight and have this conversation tonight on marriage, and we can't tell it all tonight. We can't share everything tonight. We just wanted to just celebrate with you all tonight. We're so excited to be alive, be healthy. Our children are healthy. God has kept us through these last 2 years, of uncertainty. And we want to just come on and share our story. Some people know it, some people don't. And so we wanted to share our story and laugh and reminisce and
do it with y'all.
And do it with you.
Do it with you all.
Yeah.
So definitely excited. And
before we go, I wanted to make sure no one had any questions, comments, and we can even come back into another one. Because we don't want to be on here too long. We'll probably stay until 9 and then, go off and maybe do something else. And I do see Sister Willette just posted happy anniversary to us. So Little did she know we were talking about her. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments before we wrap this up? But we thank y'all for being with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Are you happy being married to me?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy being married to you.
Would you do it all over again?
Yeah, I would do it again. I'd do it twice. I'd do it again
We
and
could
again.
get that. Twice could happen.
Oh yeah, we're gonna make twice happen.
We need to renew our vows. We've been talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would do it all over again.
So those key pointers, Sister Courtney, and probably out of order. One of those things is do those check-ins.
Yes.
I say this to men because typically, in a lot of cases, we're more nonverbal. We communicate, but oftentimes it's not with words. I say, for brothers, even sisters, put everything on the table. Express your feelings, express how you feel, especially brothers, man. Express how you feel. Don't hold that stuff in because it's toxic. Don't hold it in. It's toxic. Be willing to communicate. Be willing to talk about how you feel. Feel your feelings. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I think as I began to get older, man, I got just like a whole lot more sensitive. I find myself crying about stuff but it's more so feel your feelings. That's a key point, especially to the brothers, man. Be willing to talk. Don't hold stuff in valid. And explode. And I'll say this because I'm a preacher. The Bible said, cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Sometimes you can let a narrative in your mind that's not even real dictate the way you treat your spouse. Don't make assumptions. Don't allow these narratives to play, because you can be believing something and the enemy can talk you into something that's not even true and valid about your spouse. And that could be for both men, husbands, and wives. So I would say that's one key pointer. And then you had a couple more for Courtney. Then we'll go to the next
these question. Are the notes. It's check in, weather the storm together, loss or just depression things, these last few years, depression is all-time high. Have fun together, remembering that even with kids and business and church and all the things that you have to do, that what started the covenant is the two of you. So making sure that you guys are having fun together and create a hobby together. And then the last one was to keep pursuing each other.
Yes.
And then don't miss the updates. Whenever, like we were saying, we're 20 years in. I'm not the person. He's not the same person. So we have to check in with each other to see what each other needs, because our needs change. Our needs are not always the same thing. I may not always need that particular thing that I did 2 years ago or even 2 months ago. And that's why the check-ins are like monthly check-ins. And even when you see a change in your spouse, that's when a check-in should happen.
Yep, check in. Let's see. I have a question. Can two people that broken make marriage work? Both have terrible backgrounds of being abused, and this is not me, for the record. Yeah, Sister Adrena, I think that two people with...
Are they currently married, or they're thinking about getting married?
Or is it just hypothetical? And let's just call it a hypothetical question. Let's say that they married, but they were both...
Oh, she said, what are y'all take on this being pastors of the church?
Mm-hmm. So let's say that it's two individuals. Let's say that they wind up being married, and they both came from broken situations. Mm-hmm. And can something like that work? I would say when two people are committed to making marriage work, it can work. Of course, you got to work through some things. I would say, we talk about marriage not being 50-50, but being 100 and 100. Sometimes you have to get on a pathway to wholeness in your soul, because sometimes, you could have gone, we talk about being broken and going through so much. Like you can go through trauma and you can view your spouse through the lens of your trauma. You can be punishing your current spouse for the sins of a
Somebody
past
else did.
spouse. And sometimes it's good to really, and when we talk about becoming whole, like to be whole, that's doing that self-work, going to the Lord. And it's not, and I hate to sound cliche. I hate to sound cliche. And even if they're not married yet, do the soul work, do the work, make sure that when you step into this marriage, when you step into this relationship, that you've done the work on your heart, on your soul, to where you're not going to put somebody in a prison for a crime that they didn't even commit to you. And that's what I tell people. If you're dating, I mean, you might need to wait. If you date, then you're trying to get married, and we can kind of see that, I'll say, hold off on that. You need to do some work on you, and there's nothing wrong with doing work on yourself.
Yeah, and I would say the same. I would say if I was dating somebody and I know that there's a lot of brokenness, that's going to come up within the marriage. And if you're not healed from that, and healing takes time. Even acknowledging the the issues, the trauma from the past. I think that whenever you don't face that and just say, okay, I'm just going to get married and move on, it's going to surface. It's going to come up. And so you have to deal with that situation. You have to deal with the dark past so that you can have a bright future. And so I would definitely take time with myself. I would get counseling. There's nothing wrong with that. Spiritual counseling, and even if you have to go to therapy, whatever it is that you need to do to make yourself whole again. Right. Because going into a marriage where you're already broken, the marriage can totally break you even the more.
Hurt people.
You're going to just be fighting in that marriage, and it's not going to be the purposeful marriage that it should be. And so
absolutely. So yeah, if you
take time for yourself, take time to heal, and then you come back together as two whole people.
Absolutely. And that's not saying you're going to be perfect, but what that's saying is that it's good. What is it? You got to know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You have to know yourself. For me, I know Derek Blue. I know me. And I feel like at this point I've learned who I am. I've learned what I can take. I've learned what I cannot take. And I think that's important to know yourself, because that the background, the baggage is extremely important. It's extremely important. Because it has the ability to impact the way that you treat somebody else.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
And I think getting to know yourself, you will know what you can tolerate and what you can't. There's a difference of saying, okay, I'm broken, you're broken. But if abuse is attached to that, it's going to be a whole nother can of worms you're dealing with. Because if that brokenness is part of something that even greater and bigger, you're going to be dealing with a huge issue. But I wanted to say this. This is Terrell, our cousin. She said, for so long I carried the notion that the husband should never get moody or emotional, that he should always be strong and able to tackle any and everything at any given time. I related male moodiness to being unreliable and weak. And I will talk about this, and then you definitely can share to your man.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. I understand where you're coming from. And I think that is something that, society has shown us in movies and films and different things like that. And when you're dealing with your husband, for me, I'm gonna speak for me. Let me just say that. Let me step back and say I'm gonna speak for myself. I want my husband to be as vulnerable as he can be with me. And we even teach our boys that if you cry, that's actually strength, because we don't get to see that side of men a lot. It is hidden, and it's like few and far between. And like if you do see a man crying, he's a punk. But really, I've learned to appreciate that side of my husband, and I want to see it because I don't want him going somewhere else to get that fixed. He needs to, and we could be fixers. We're nurturers by nature, so I want to be the one for him to cry on my shoulder. I want him to tell me what's bothering him, and a lot of times men aren't really always open to share what's going on because that is a vulnerable moment for them. But if you place in your heart to um, be receptive of him, regardless of him crying or not, and yes, that might be his weak moment per se, that doesn't make him a weak man, right? Because if he's getting beat up out there on the job, and let's just be real, if he's a black man, we already know what he's facing with the world. So to come home and then to be ridiculed about him getting vulnerable, it will even shut him down the more. I know one thing about this man. If I say something that can destroy him, his ego, or even his thought process, he will shut down. And so you have to make sure that when you have your husband wanting to talk, wanting to cry, that is emotion, and there's something leading him to that. So to be able to uncover that is very important, and to be able to pray him back to um the strength that he needs.
Yeah, and I think it's not and I think sound like you kind of learn this, the way that question is worded. Yeah, it's not unreliableness. I think it's a good thing to be able to express, especially as a man, how we feel, because we don't do that well all the time, to be honest with you. The way that we even, I mean, the way that I was raised, and I won't say raised by my parents, but just raised and conditioned in life.
Mm-hmm.
If you cry, oh, you a punk.
Mm-hmm.
You a punk. Man, suck it up. You tell them to hold it in. You know what I mean? Suck it up. And then I talk to some of y'all parents out there. You gonna hit me with that belt and then tell me not to cry. I never understood that.
Right.
But I mean, you hit me. What am I supposed to do?
And it hurt.
And it hurt. So I cry. And I think at the end of the day, we just have to be able to communicate that. And everybody, here's the truth of the matter, whether we want to admit it or not, everybody is emotional. Men are emotional and women are emotional. We just um demonstrate the emotion different. Everybody's emotional, demonstrate it, hold it in. So I would say it's okay for men to be able to express, and actually vulnerability is a gift when you're able to express how you feel in a way that is constructive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift, and I think that it's important. And to that point is that, and one of the things, even back to that point, and perhaps this might be for somebody right here, is when you look at it, what you're reared up around has an impact on the way that you treat somebody of the opposite sex. I was raised in a house with boys, and we were rough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, we were rough, and everything was
And
rough. Everything was loud. Yeah, and then Jackie came and moved in us, and we treated her like she was a little brother.
Sorry, Jackie.
And all of our God sisters, we treated them like they were little brothers because it was rough. And we talked loud. We were but that doesn't translate well when you introduce into a marriage. You know what I mean? And all of that matters. So you have to know and understand how what you've been through is going to impact somebody else, and specifically your spouse.
And I will say this, even if you grew up, I didn't have a lot of male figures in my life. I had my dad. And I have, so my dad has 4 or 5 siblings. And they're girls. So I had a lot of aunties. I was around a lot of females. Even on my mom's side, my mom has 1 sister and 1 brother, but it's so many female cousins. There's not a lot of male. I have like 1 male cousin, Junior. What's up, Junior? And so I was nervous to have boys. Like growing up, because I had my sister, it was me and my sister, and we had a good relationship. that's all I wanted was girls. And then, God blessed me with 2 boys first and then 2 girls. So it's 2 boys, 2 girls, and then our son. And I tell you, so I have 3 boys. And to come from um no boys to 3 boys, 3 sons that I'm raising, was definitely a culture shock to be like, okay, so now I'm responsible for them. But I love my boys, and I am instilling in them everything. So I'm instilling in them, you know, being a strong man to get up and work and all of those things and he is definitely that leader in that. But then I'm also teaching them to, I'm studying my children as I study my husband. I think you should study your spouse.
That's a nugget.
Study your spouse, study your offspring, because in that you will learn and discover their gifts. Even your husband, you'll discover his gifts, and then you could push that.
Yeah.
See, there's a lot of stuff that I push in my husband because we work together, but there's things that I'm ready to start branding him and pushing him in that direction that I know the gifts, are sitting dormant because he's doing so many other things. So I have to watch him and make sure that he's going to go do those things because that's a gift for the world. And so same thing with our children. A lot of things that's in the bloodline that he innately carries in him, the gifts and the talents, our children are showing up with them. And it can't stop here. It has to be birthed over here. Our kids have to birth this, and they have to become this. And so we are so adamant in studying our children and not pushing them to not one thing. I didn't push Melania to modeling. She asked me at 12 years old, she was like, Mom, I don't feel like I just don't know what I want to become. I don't know what I want to do. I don't feel self-confident in who I am. She's like, can I try modeling? And like that, I was on the phone. I called. She got the appointment. And what I did, and I remember when I had shared this with Dr. T, definitely a mentor to me. I told her, I said, I brought them both to both my girls at the time. They were 12 and 9 at the time, and I brought them both at the same time. And the agency was like, okay, well, we could only take one, and we'll take the oldest. And at the time, my oldest was like, forget it, I won't do modeling. And even though she was the one that pushed her to it, it was like, I won't do it. I'll give it to my sister. Let her do it. And it was so beautiful to see that. But the best thing that happened for her was to do it. And now she's been signed. It brought her out. Her personality is just amazing now. She knows who she is. She's been signed to a modeling
y'all
agency.
Pray for her daddy, because I think those pants are too tight. That's, I'm sorry, I digress. But what were you talking about?
So basically, just studying your children.
Yeah, that's a nugget though.
Studying your children, studying your spouse.
But when you're 12, you don't need pants on that. Okay. You just don't. You're a child. But what I say, I think that is a nugget on studying. Making sure that you study your person, and that's true. Be each other's biggest cheerleader. The one thing about it is, if Melanie says I can do it, I'm gonna do it. Just knowing that I'm gonna do it. Be each other's biggest cheerleaders, and be careful what you say. I'll say this right here as a nugget, Courtney, if you still taking notes, and I say this to men, I say it to women too. Watch your mouth. You can to any of us. You can't be reckless with your words. I don't care how upset you are. You can't be reckless with your words. Speak life. And you have to be intentional and deliberate about speaking life. Speak life over your spouse. Don't affirm each other. This whole thing about love languages. Find out, what makes you feel loved. It's certain things that make different people feel loved. It could be what you say about them. It could be physical touch. Y'all know the 5 love languages. If you don't, go to 5lovelanguages.com. They didn't even pay us for that. But it's a good resource to figure that out.
It is.
Because I think we learned that sometimes it changes.
And you you might love them the way that you love to be loved, but it's not affecting them in that type of way.
Right.
I love surprising him with gifts and different things and experiences, and that might not be what he
Makes
wants.
me feel loved.
But I know that he loves his family and different things. So just watching, and I'll say back on, I'll say this: a lot of times men aren't naturally moody. So if you get to the point where your husband is moody and snappy, have you all been intimate lately? It's funny how men will get to that point when intimacy is lacking. They kind of snap and get upset and are short with you, and or they don't got nothing to say. Making sure that your love life is making sure that your love life is on fire, because
Burning. Go ahead, just keep talking. Preach that. I like that.
So that's
Amen.
part of it. That's not the whole answer, but that's part of it. And I noticed too, when it's time to talk about something serious, making sure you all are intimate and then having the tough conversation, because
that's a nugget.
Men aren't meant to listen to something if their needs aren't met.
And I'll say this right here, and that's a whole nother live, but I'll say this. Thank you,
Courtney. We love you.
Thank you, Miss Gail, too. But
oh, thank you, Miss Gail.
And then too, I think men, and that's both ways. We have to make sure that we're finding out what each other needs, and that was a nugget too. The whole intimacy thing, that's a nugget. Intimacy and sex, that's a whole nother thing, but making sure that the needs are met for each other.
And intimacy is, physical, but then also I love the breakdown of intimacy. Mm-hmm. Intimacy is intimacy. Like, I want you to see into me. Like, right. What are the things that are bothering me? What are things that I need? What are the things that interest me? Like, a lot of times it's not even about like something wrong, but do you care about like what I like?
True.
Like if you're not spending time with your spouse and there's not a time that you guys are trying to connect on a deeper level, right. Turn the TV off. When you're having conversations, put the phone away. The phone could be such a distraction. You have it up here and they're trying to tell you something. Well, it seems to me that scroll on Instagram is more important than me. Spending time, private time, going on a walk together, going on a bike ride, doing those things, whatever that is, going out to dinner. I'll tell you, sometimes we're so busy. We're working always on our laptops or on our phones because of this digital world, to put all that away and go to dinner.
Yeah.
Or put all that away and go to a movie. Yeah. Or even just go for ice cream or whatever. Or just, we have to go out of town next week and we're leaving on Thursday. I am looking so forward to our road trip, because that road trip, we have so many good conversations. Just today, we had to go out of town for business, like an hour away. But that road trip is where a lot of conversation can take place. And so getting yourself in that position to where you have that time, even that's in your bedroom, locking the door so the kids don't be bothering you, and having a good conversation, just making the intimacy happen. You don't have to schedule it. You don't have to, plan it out. Just do it. Like one day, stop by Publix and get some fruit and, your favorite soda or drink or what's favorite snack.
Yeah, whatever that looks like.
Plan that out. Plan out what you're going to do that night. Just unspur the moment and be like, babe, tonight it's just going to be us. We're going to watch this movie. A lot of people are loving that Bel Air show. Find something to watch together that will initiate conversation. And it might be about the show, but then it might be about, your life.
Shout out to Quan Campbell.
What's up, Quan?
Saw him there.
Oh, is he on?
Yeah.
Hey, Quan.
Designer extraordinaire. But it's investing in you, investing in each other, and taking that time. That's investments in time. That's showing your spouse that it's truly about them, And you can't be, I say this all the time. The opposite of love is selfishness.
Mm.
Can't be selfish. You have to know that, you have to know that your spouse needs you, whether that be emotionally, physically, emotional, whatever that is, needs you there. And that's why we were created. That's why we were married. So we're 20 years strong. And I think, babe, the hour is far spent.
Yeah. Yes, we will definitely come back and do a part 2 to this. But we thank you for your questions. We thank you for your comments. We thank you for your stories of sharing
Anniversary wishes.
your anniversary. And so thank you all for being here. We love you all.
Yes.
Thank you, because this is a Friday night. There's so many things that you guys can be doing, and you decided to spend your Friday night with us. Yeah. So we are so grateful. And hopefully you gleaned something from this conversation. I hope you have, and just look forward to maybe another one soon. We have some announcements that are going to be coming out soon for some things that we're working on right now. So you will be notified of that very soon. And we thank you all. If you guys would please do us a favor and put down in the comments some things that you would want us to talk about on the next one. And we will come back and do another one. But we hope that you all have a great weekend, a happy Friday night, and a great weekend. And we will see you later. Thank y'all so much. We love y'all.
Bye.